Hello and welcome to the first in the series of guides for the Library of Ruina. In this video, I'll be going over what the game is, its mechanics, and how to get started. Library of Ruina by Project Moon is a unique take on a party-based deck builder where you fight guests with your party to grow stronger. Unfortunately, this game does have a bit of a learning curve.
How does this work? Combat's confusing as hell!
These books can't be read. At first the combat looks pretty nuts, but after a couple hours you start to think it's still nuts. How the hell does this shit work? I attack and he's not fighting me back.
The manuals have gotten better, but I still find that it's best to have someone explain it verbally. First, where the menus are and what they do. When you start the game, you'll be faced down by this menu. It'll expand as you progress, but for now, this is what you've got. On the right, you have your librarians, your floor, and their current mission, as well as your abnormality page, which will come into effect later in the game. The middle is where all the different floors are. They all have different strengths and weaknesses, but for now, you only have this one. Finally, on the left, we have the invitations, burn books, and credenza tabs. The credenza is where you can rewatch all the story parts of the game, but it's mostly unimportant right now. The burn books tab is where you can get more pages to use. In the middle, you have all the books you have available. When you hover over a book, it'll show you the possible rewards on the left, and when you click it, it'll go to the books to get burnt on the right. When you burn books, you get 8 combat and key pages per burnt book. Key pages are what you equip your librarians with, and combat pages are what you put into your key pages and play during battles. Finally, the invitation screen. This is where you invite new guests to the library. When you click on one of the icons, it'll zoom into it and show what books you need to have in order to send the invitation. When all the books have been placed, the invitation will go red and you can send it out. When fighting battles you've already fought before, the left will have relevant information on the enemies you're about to face. Clicking on an enemy will show even more information. Now let's send the invitation out. After sending the invitation, you'll get some story and then you'll be shown this screen. The right shows your side of the fight, including your librarians, their stats, and combat pages. The left shows the same for the enemies. Finally, in the middle, you can switch which floor you want to use. Again, for now, there's only one, but later you'll have access to 10 floors. Now let's start the battle. First, after pressing space once, it'll roll everyone's speed die for the turn. Speed die determine the order in which characters act. Additionally, higher speed die values can redirect lower speed die to target them instead of someone else. Next, your combat pages. On the top left, it shows how much light the card costs, and on the bottom, it shows what kind of dice the page has. Hovering or left-clicking on the card will bring up more info, such as what the roll ranges of each dice are, as well as any additional effects. You may have noticed that there are different colors and icons for each die. Overall, there are 5 types of combat dice, split into 2 categories. Offensive, including slash, blunt, and pierce, and defensive, including block and evade. Offensive dice all function the same, but inflict different types of damage and stagger damage, which can be more or less effective depending on the target. But the defensive die behave uniquely depending on how they roll. Block dice are easier to wrap your head around. When a block die rolls lower than an offensive die, you take damage equal to the difference, but when you win, the offensive die deals no damage and the attacker takes stagger damage equal to the difference. When an evade die rolls lower though, you will take the full force of the attack. However, when you win or tie, the attack is completely negated. Additionally, when you roll higher than the attack, you will gain stagger equal to the difference and the evade die is reused for the next roll. When 2 defensive dice clash, they'll roll as normal, but will only affect stagger. Additionally, evade die will not roll again even if it wins the clash. Stagger is a very important resource. You take stagger damage whenever you take damage based on your stagger resistances, but upon being depleted, instead of dying, your character will become staggered, which makes them take double damage from combat and makes them unable to act for a turn. Now that you've selected what combat pages you want to use, let's move on to clashes. The clash is when 2 combat pages fight each other and works fairly intuitively, with the higher value die winning the clash, but there are a few things to go over. First, when one page runs out of combat dice, the rest of the remaining attacks become one-sided. There aren't any benefits to one-sided attacks compared to clashes other than not needing to contend with an opponent's die, but there is a benefit to clashing that isn't obvious at first glance, which I'll go over later. Next, defensive die that aren't used in clashes are retained for the next time an enemy performs a one-sided attack, which then becomes a clash. Essentially, you can think of a clash as when 2 combat dice are contending to see which rolls higher. Finally, let's talk about emotions. During a battle, the combatants' emotions grow and they gain more power the higher people's emotions are running. Each time you clash, you get an emotion coin. Winning gives a positive one, and losing gives a negative one. Additionally, when rolling combat dice, rolling the minimum value will give a negative coin, and rolling the maximum value will give a positive coin. Finally, killing an enemy will give 3 emotion coins. Losing an ally has a similar effect. But what do emotion coins do? Well, on their own, they can't buy anything, but in the bottom right and left, you can see each character's emotion level, which starts at 0 and goes all the way up to 5. Each time the bar fills up with coins, you go up an emotion level. Gaining emotion level has all of these benefits, as well as refilling your light. While I'm on the topic of light, staggering or killing an enemy will give you 1 light as a reward. Finally, as your opponents gain emotion levels, the books that they give will sometimes change from a generic book to their specific book, so be on the lookout for that. Finally, after ending the battle, you'll be on this screen. The left shows the books you've acquired, the right shows your characters and any accessories that they gain, and finally, the middle shows which enemies were defeated by which floor. I hope this has been helpful and that you'll continue to support this series, and as always, thank you for watching.